Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Ingrid Valencia, and I am with the network of the National Library of Medicine, also known as NNLM. In honor of Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, we are pleased to present the documentary Alive Inside, a moving exploration of Alzheimer's, music therapy, and precision medicine. If you haven't yet had a chance to watch the film, there is still time. The viewing window closes on June 18th. Today, we're inviting you to this important panel discussion of the film and to some of the research being done in the field of brain health. Before I introduce our panel moderator, I'd like to encourage everyone joining us live to ask questions and make comments through the chat. For chat moderations, we follow the NIH comment guidelines, which you can find now in the chat. Our team will be monitoring the chat for the duration of the discussion. We would love to hear from you, and our panelists will respond to as many comments and questions as they can. Due to time constraints, we may not be able to get to all the questions. If you're not able to stay for the entire discussion, you'll find the recording of today's conversation on NNLM's YouTube channel. We are excited to offer closed captioning in English and Spanish. Please visit the external link that we'll share in the chat. Para subtítulos en español, visite el enlace externo que compartiremos en el chat. You can message our team in the chat if you need assistance finding captioning or if you have any other technical issues. At the end of the program, we will be sharing a link to our online survey. We'll be raffling a $15 Visa gift card for up to 5 people who complete the survey. We would really appreciate if you take a few moments to share your feedback to let us know what worked well and to help us improve our programming. I am pleased to introduce you now to Gretchen Funk, our moderator for today. Gretchen Funk is the Chief Programming Officer for FiftyForward in Nashville, Tennessee, and the Principal Investigator for FiftyForward's All of Us Research Program, National Community Engagement Partnership through the National Institutes of Health. Gretchen is a graduate of the University of Notre Dame and the Hunter College of Social Work at the City University of New York. Throughout her career, she has been devoted to service and advocacy for the most vulnerable and underrepresented individuals in our community. Gretchen, thank you so much for joining us. I will now let you take it from here.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Ingrid. Welcome everyone to today's conversation about Alive Inside. As Ingrid mentioned, I am the Chief Program Officer at FiftyForward, and our mission is to support, champion, and enhance life for older adults in Middle Tennessee through the provision of engaging, highest quality services and programs. I am also the Principal Investigator for FiftyForward's All of Us Research Program National Community Engagement Partner Award. Alive Inside offers a compelling view of Alzheimer's disease and the way that music can be a powerful tool that enables individuals impacted by Alzheimer's to connect with and communicate about their memories. In collaboration with the Network of National Libraries of Medicine and the All of Us Research Program, we at FiftyForward are excited to offer this opportunity to explore themes of Alive Inside with our panelists and to look at how the All of Us Research Program, which aims to advance precision medicine by enrolling 1 million people from diverse backgrounds living in the US to volunteer and share their health data to help researchers find better treatments and cures for diseases like Alzheimer's. We have just reached the exciting milestone of 500,000 individuals enrolled in All of Us so far, halfway there, and 80% of those individuals are coming from communities historically underrepresented in biomedical research. You can learn more by visiting our website at joinallofus.org/50forward. Now for a few words about our esteemed panelists. Francine Pinella. Fran is the Director of Caregiver Support in a New Jersey-based nonprofit program that provides no-cost caregiver respite relief, support, and life enrichment programs to local New Jersey families living at home with dementia, including an intergenerational program inspired by Alive Inside called Connect Through Music Learning, which she applies to large multi-omic data sets in the neurodegenerative disease space. Hampton is passionate about investigating differences on both clinical and omic levels and how these differences can affect clinical trial outcomes. And finally, we're so pleased to be able to talk with Michael Rosado Bennett. Michael is the writer, director, and producer of Alive Inside, winner of the 2014 Sundance Film Festival Audience Award for U.S. Documentary, and founder, director of the Alive Inside Foundation. He believes we are living in a time where great human change is possible and necessary, and works to heal our disconnections. So welcome, Fran, Michael, and Hampton. Now let us get to our discussion. First, Michael, thank you so much for this amazing documentary. Very moving and very important information touched on. Would you please talk about what drew you to this subject and how you became involved in this work? And you are on mute, Michael.
Sorry. That's a very interesting question. I really appreciate it because that's really everything. Why are you drawn to do anything? You know, the reason anyone is on this panel, like all these amazing people that are here, like they have basically empathy, you know, and the desire to reduce other people's suffering. And it's, you know, it's something that I think in the modern world almost passes as a problem, you know, to have empathy, you know, because it does actually in our crazy world, it actually makes you more vulnerable, or it makes it people can manipulate you because of your empathy. And so what happened was very, very, very simple. I was just making a small film about bringing music into nursing homes. And I saw Henry, you know, and I gave him the music, and I didn't expect anything to happen at all. You know, I mean, I had no expectations. And then to see a man who had literally sat like this, literally for 10 years in one spot in a hallway, wheeled out, wheeled back in, wheeled out, to see the life that was inside of him. And that life was so amazing that it really just floored me, you know. Um, I'm an amateur, you know, you can forgive me, but I thought we had discovered the cure for Alzheimer's. For like about an entire week, I thought we had discovered the cure for Alzheimer's. And then I had you know, the sadness of experiencing this amazing functionality that can be reawakened. I mean, it is utterly spectacular. I've been in rooms where we give somebody music and he looks up at his daughter who hasn't heard his name in like 10 years, and he says her name to her face. You know, it's these sort of things are they're almost beyond human comprehension, actually, because they hit us on such a gut level, and that gut level actually it bypasses our cognitive senses, you know. And that's one of you asked me what inspired me or drew me to this. Is what drew me was underneath my mind. It's in my being. And actually that's what I think, you know, that was my desire. Like, oh my goodness, you know, could I escape, could I awaken these people or help awaken them? And so I have to do this, right? Because the answer is yes, I can awaken people. And um, the sad thing is I think all of us, everyone listening, everyone on this panel, you know, in some way is not as alive as we could. You know, we're kind of, we're trying our best, but everybody knows that the way we've chosen to create life and community in the modern world is amazing in some ways and is destructive to sort of human hearts. And if you spend any time in nursing homes, you know, you have to suffer the you know, the end of a human life being forgotten, having no place. And as hard as it is to accept it, we are all in that state. We all are actually, our humanness is less than appreciated as it could than it could be. You know, so that's why I made this film, because I wanted people to realize the wisdom of music and what it had to teach us. And it has a lot to teach us, much more than we can probably communicate in this small panel.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I think what you say about empathy and the fact that nowadays people do armor themselves against being vulnerable, but it's only through being vulnerable and having empathy that we connect. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. Similarly, Fran, you have devoted your career and work to seeing people living with dementia as individuals and helping them to live their best possible lives. Can you share with us what drew you to this work and what keeps you energized and moving forward and learning?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me here. I'm so excited to be here. This is definitely what drives my life these past 20 years or so, especially since I met Michael 7 years ago. Yeah. Probably, you know, in retrospect, it probably has to do with the fact that my grandma lived with me when I was young. And I look back now and think about high school, and we had to do community projects, and we would visit elderly people in our area that needed food shopping, and we'd go with their little list and go visit the lady when we came back and help her put things away. And then, you know, as I got older and had children, I went back to school to be a nurse. And I think this is another thing that's happened to me. It's sort of been like a path of one door opening for me, and I open it and move forward. I was going to school to be an RN, and at the it came time for our clinical rotation. I'd finished all my classes. I was all excited, but I could only do that during the week. I had 3 children at the time, and I needed to be home during the week. So I started to have to take my clinicals on the weekends and became an LPN, which in retrospect was the best thing that ever happened to me, because simultaneously during that time, they were kind of switching over healthcare with nursing and created LPNs were no longer going to be in a hospital. They were using techs and RNs, and I'd have to go work in a nursing home. So that's kind of what brought me there. I only look back at all these things and see how this path has been bringing me here. And then for the past 20 years, I met somebody for the first time with dementia when we called it that they were senile. We were chasing them around the hallways all the time, trying to reorient somebody to what's today and trying to get them to take their meds. And it was just not life. Really not life. So over the years, I was mentored by some wonderful people, a music therapist first that introduced me to wonderful authors and the spectacular research and caring individuals that have written such wonderful books like Naomi Feil or Teepa Snow and The Best Friends Approach, and even Dr. Powell and others. And that's what kind of brought me to seeing while I was working with this music therapist that these are just people, and it's really simple, sort of like what we see in the film, holding somebody's hand and looking at them in the eye and connecting with them, learning about who they are and the music that was part of their life. It's that simple. Some love, some attention, some trying to understand who they are, and then the song helps them start to talk when they haven't spoken before. I mean, I just witnessed it so many times. It's just touched me so deeply that I've just been following that path. Saw the film Alive Inside, got some kids together in a music school in Asbury Park, New Jersey. We got them to sing in some nursing homes. I go home that day all happy because the kids connected to this group of seniors, and go on the internet like I always do. And I must have Googled Alive Inside. I find, oh my gosh, there's an Alive Inside Foundation. What is that? And I go and I see it, and I'm like blown away. So I send a little note. Hey, my name is Fran. I saw your film. I just did this thing with these kids. They love music, blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know it, I get a phone call, and it's Michael Rosado Bennett, and I almost fell off my chair. and participated in his first pilot project with some students, and just kept me going forward. And also working in my nonprofit capacity for caregiver volunteers of Central Jersey, a 30-year-old, really small nonprofit. And we help the elderly in our area, including people living at home with dementia, through a respite program. That's where we had an award-winning respite program that we use volunteers to do. So we manage volunteers to help elderly stay at home, aging in place, including the respite. Yeah. Wow. So what keeps me going is that it's the most wonderful thing to do in your life. You know, I was with somebody this morning before here, and 58-year-old with Alzheimer's disease, and his wife got to watch me sing songs with him, and it made her day. So, you know, it was the one part of it is the singing or helping that person find their aliveness while they're sharing with you. But the other part of it is the impact it has on their family. So even though that wasn't a respite per se, it did help his wife feel better for today and to see that there's hope. So that's what really keeps me going.
Yeah, that is great. You speak so passionately about everything that you do, and clearly you are a gift to the families that you help. That's terrific. We have an audience comment from Karen, who says she has also had some amazing experience when she had music around her older veteran who had dementia, and she's been seeing some amazing videos about this kind of work too. So thanks for that. Hampton, you are using the All of Us Research Program Researcher Workbench related to your Alzheimer's disease research. Could you please explain to us what precision medicine is and offer a brief overview of the All of Us Research Program that attempts to help move us forward with treatments for diseases like Alzheimer's?
I would love to. So precision medicine, also known as personalized medicine, is an approach to disease prevention and treatment that is really supposed to be tailored to the individual. So rather than trying to find a magic treatment that is successful at treating a disease across all types of patients, precision medicine takes into account individual differences in things like genetic risk, difference in environments and in lifestyles, because we know everyone is inherently different. This means that in many cases, your risk for disease may be different from others. So your disease trajectory may be different and your reaction to treatment may be different. And we also know a difference in your genetic code. I work in genetics, and difference in your genetic code affects disease risk differently. So African Americans may have a lower associated with risk with a specific variant as compared to Europeans who may have a higher risk associated with the same exact variant. And these reasons are why we need initiatives like All of Us, which I'm very happy to have the opportunity to work with and work on, because initiatives like this are going to help us tailor disease research and eventually disease treatment. And so All of Us is doing great things already for precision medicine just by having volunteers participate who are from a wide variety of backgrounds and environments, and by providing genetic information alongside all the rich clinical information that they're providing. They're creating a resource that is invaluable to researchers looking to move forward with precision medicine approaches, and not just with Alzheimer's disease like I'm working on, but across other health areas as well.
That's great. Thank you, Hampton. That is great. And Michael, I had really noticed in the documentary, you had a wide range of folks. You had men, women, different racial backgrounds, different ages. So that diversity piece seemed clearly important to you as well, in how you portrayed music as an opportunity. We have a question from the audience, and this is a challenging question maybe, but a woman in the audience says that her mother loved music but is deaf, and she wondered, is there a way to reach people when hearing is a challenge? I don't know, Fran or Michael, if you have any ideas about that.
I mean, I could say something, but Fran is really she's such an expert at working with people with dementia. She probably could tell us.
Great.
And I always like to say that I'm really not the expert. I feel like I'm the student of the experts. I just take what everybody is doing all their research for and do it with people. So I would say probably that's a tough one. And that is going to be a challenge. We won't be able to just listen to music with somebody who's deaf, but we still can sit close to somebody. We can still hold somebody's hand and look straight in their eyes and maybe do some kind of rhythm type music modality, or maybe even with a music therapist to try to come in, maybe if they could find somebody to do that. There's usually music therapists in the area. Sometimes, it's not something that Medicare is going to pay for, but it could be really worthwhile to have a couple of sessions with a real music therapist to bring some rhythm things, to maybe something with vibration, and to help you get going. But it's still connecting. If we can connect to somebody really closely, looking at old photographs or mementos of somebody's life, like especially since it's your family member and their life story, use that to be the connection, since you can't use the music. That's what I would try.
Yeah, in a way, music is powerful because it evokes emotion, and it's actually the evocation of emotion that seems to trigger some of this functionality. So what Fran is saying about photographs, are amazing. Smells, like older people, try camphor, try peppermint. Like these things actually are deep in people's past. And in terms of vibration, I've used bone conduction headphones with people who have been a certain kind of deafness that they could hear through bone conduction. And I've also used speakers. I've also taken the speakers and put them really close to people, because the core of music, this is the thing that I said in very quietly and Alive Inside, but is so profound, is that really music's function is to make us feel safe. And why does it make us feel safe? Because for 9 months of our life, we had our head rested on the drum of our mother. And we're designed, unlike all the other animals, to come out of the womb unfinished. And so that state of safety that we need in the womb, it has to be continued outside. And I think our wiring that's why we have music, because the music is literally the heartbeat. So so really it's in search of safety. So like, can you hug this person? Can you really melt yourself so they can feel you? Can you sing to them so they can feel the vibration of your body? These are things that I would look at.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, I noticed for sure in the documentary that it was such a personal experience. It wasn't that you played the same music for a large group of people, but you had the headphones, which could help with the fact that certainly there are people who have lost all their hearing, but we know in older adults, hearing loss in general is so difficult. So the ability through the headphones to allow someone, it's not returning to the womb, but to really return to that personal kind of experience of their own music. That's really, really helpful. A question from the audience again, with the folks in the documentary that responded so well to music, how long did that effect last? Someone asked, did their dementia symptoms return fairly quickly? Was there some improvement that was longer lasting?
Fran, you want to?
Oh, sure. So I'll give you an unbelievable example. We did a short video after the pilot project with the Alive Inside Foundation with some students in an assisted living memory care. And one of the ladies, Dottie, was participated. And when we got them together and we were being filmed that day, she was all dressed up. She had had a bad week, the staff said. But when they started playing her music, she did literally come alive that day, and we caught it all. And the staff was amazed that she was singing and dancing with us. And they told us afterwards that this probably went on for about 4 or 5 hours after we left. She was up, she was chatting that day. She was so alive. And she was very much on the end stages of Alzheimer's disease. So she didn't really last much longer. She was at the end stages of her life anyway. So that was one of those magical things. So does it to say that it stops the symptoms is not really accurate. What happens with this music is that because this is a human being and their soul is there, and no matter what anybody says, they're still in there. You just have to find ways to get those connections made once in a while. And that's what the music seems to do. The music just gets to it. It bypasses the dead space, and it makes that connection, and that person feels like themselves again. And that's the magic. And it is magical when it happens. So Dottie was herself that day. Whether the symptoms of dementia disappear is not exactly right, but she was still able to sing and laugh and be happy and enjoy her environment. And it was amazing. And it did go on for hours after that. That's amazing.
That is amazing. That's beautiful. Another comment from the audience from Rebecca. She says, such a beautiful documentary. When I was working in a nursing home, I also would see this, and it is those moments of joy that made being a nurse worth it, and that she always encouraged music therapy and continues to recommend it. So many believers in our audience today. So that is really great. Thank you. A related question for you, Fran. It was beautiful to see the joy that music brought to the individuals in Alive Inside, in addition to the ways that it sparked memories. So at FiftyForward, we work with individuals impacted by Alzheimer's in our programs, including an adult day service program we have. And often families can feel a lot of despair related to that loss of shared memories. And we work with them to recognize the importance of being present with their loved ones, even though the loved one doesn't seem to outwardly remember them any longer, but can still feel that comfort of their presence, sort of like Michael was talking about, that comfort of, that familial presence. So how do you work with families and with individuals with Alzheimer's to help them to stay connected as the illness progresses and they feel that they're losing the loved one that they knew?
Yeah, so that's really tough. And that's the biggest challenge. That's, through Caregiver Volunteers program that I manage, which is the Alzheimer's Respite Care program. It kind of starts when we meet them, and we often meet the family not early on in the progression of dementia, but usually after a crisis happens. We are part of our county's aging services group. So we'll often get a call that someone needs help after maybe a spouse of an older couple having gone to the hospital for some reason. They come back home, they can get some services in the home now. So the VNA goes, the visiting nurses come into the home. And for the first time, someone's seeing that this is a really dire situation. We have an elderly person with dementia, Alzheimer's, some form of dementia, and then a care partner, either a wife or maybe oftentimes an adult child living with them, who are, things are out of control at this point because nobody's really seen what's been happening. Oftentimes we're not getting real diagnoses in the community. A lot of families are just getting a diagnosis after a quick mini mental maybe, and an Aricept prescription, and well, there's nothing really you can do. So, do your best. And that's what they're saying. So that finally a social worker will call and say, this family can use help, along with their other services that they're going to, refer. And our care manager will go to the house, do probably first a big long phone call to see if they're appropriate for the program, and they'll give them resources and they'll talk to them, refer to a support group. So this is just the beginning of the relationship. They go to the home, they do an assessment, and then in the hopes that within a few weeks we can find an appropriate volunteer match who we train and we do ongoing training with, who will go to the house every week for 3 hours to let the caregiver just get out of the house. We're not providing care, we're going in there as a social visit. So our volunteer will then go in there and hopefully build a relationship with the person with dementia, be a shoulder for the family caregiver, just to know that there's somebody who cares. And oftentimes it's difficult in that home situation to do much teaching or talking about ways to do it better or not, because the last thing they need at that point is for anybody to tell them that anything they're doing isn't the best that they can do, because all they're doing is their best. So this is an ongoing relationship, can go on for years. So it's during this relationship that we have with them, that we get close to them, we're able to little by little, maybe sometimes demonstrate these things so that they see how maybe the relationship is going with that volunteer and their husband, parent, whoever it is, that when they sit and look at photos, or when they're, just sitting and holding hands or listening to music or doing whatever it is based on that person's life story, because again, this is such an individual thing. So that it's the support, I think, that helps them be more in the moment, but it's a little bit different in a home than when it's in a center or something like that. So that's how we do it. And we just keep up with them. We're always in touch with them over the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that is such a great gift to families who can connect with programs like that. It's great. Just to share a couple of other comments from the chat. So Anya says, amen to the power of music. It's all in the vibrations. So I think she liked those answers. That was very good. And a couple people have chimed in about the formal profession of music therapy and how formalized music therapy has so much to offer to individuals. So thanks to our audience for chiming in with those things. Hampton, I would like to ask you about how all of us are looking forward to and hoping for better treatments for devastating diseases like Alzheimer's. As a research scientist, would you please tell us how you have used the All of Us researcher workbench related to your research involving Alzheimer's disease?
Yes, definitely. So I mainly work in genetics, and basically what I do is I look across people's genomes and I try to identify variations in your genome, of which we all have millions of these variations. But I'm looking for variations that increase your risk of or decrease your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease or dementia. When you find those variations, you can then, follow up on these things with many other analysis techniques and other methods to determine what biologically is that variant doing to cause this increase or decrease in risk. And we know that there's a genetic component to Alzheimer's disease and that it's important to dissect this, but actually what the field has been doing a very poor job of is including diversity in this research. So All of Us is a great platform which researchers like myself are able to access in a way that, of course, everything is de-identified, so no individuals can be identified and no data is ever taken away from the platform. But it's a great platform where you can do all of your computation and analysis right on the platform. And I get to look at, and everybody, all the researchers who get access to it get to look at the participants who have all agreed to, to work with All of Us that are all from a very wide array of backgrounds. And that's the most important part, because as you can imagine, this is incredibly valuable, not only because you can leverage the differences, the underlying differences in population genetics to increase power and just overall analysis, which is great. You can find new things that way, but also because we really need to move to research population specific risk in order to fully understand the best way to move forward in developing treatments and prevention that work for everyone. And I just want to say, if anyone from the audience is a participant in All of Us, that we could not do any of this research without you, and that your participation is truly the key to some of these new discoveries.
That's great. And before we came online, Hampton, you were talking a little bit about the fact that it can be hard to access data from certain sources. And a beauty of All of Us is that this data was not gathered for one purpose. It was gathered so that there would be a rich data set reflecting a lot of diversity that scientists like you could come to with your particular problem that you're hoping to solve. And so folks are contributing their data to really help progression of medicine in many different ways. Who knows? I am a program participant, and who knows how somebody will use my information someday. It makes me excited to think about that. And again, you can go to the website, joinallofus.org/50forward, and find out more about that. So thank you. Michael, to come back to you. So you talked a little bit about Henry when you were speaking earlier. Is there another person or a person whose story or who the experience of filming them in the documentary was particularly impactful to you, or that maybe today comes to you? Because I bet all of them were particularly impactful to you. But anyone else you think of that you'd want to share their story? And I think you are muted again. Sorry.
To be polite here. I think Mary Lou's story is really interesting because I think if Mary Lou were in an institution, she could be one of these people that like retreats into herself and disappears. And instead, you know, her husband played her music. She was a piano player. And so he played the music she could no longer play. I don't know if you remember in the film, but she would start to play along on the dining room table, you know? And you could see in her face, you could see her like almost be lost and then come back in and then almost be lost. And I mean, I think she's a tremendous example of, you know, how a little bit of attention and music or love actually and contact can really help people make a better quality of life for them, you know. And um, you know, I don't know if anybody else, I don't want to say this, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but um, I love dogs, you know, and dogs have taught me a tremendous amount. And when I was younger, I actually didn't know how to feel dogs, right? And so sometimes, a lot of times, I'll see somebody, a man usually, younger usually, who will look at somebody with dementia and be like, they don't have their memory, they're gone, you know? And and it's something that we all have to face. I mean, you know, like, because and it's an absolute ignorance, you know, that in their mind, because in the cognitive world, if you don't have access to your mind and your memories, you are lost, you are gone. But I have a dog, a French bulldog, and French bulldogs are incredibly loving, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, you hold them and you can feel them like like a beyond a human being. And I said to myself, my God, I've got the smartest dog in the world. And a friend of mine said, no, French bulldogs are actually really dumb. They're the 53rd smartest dog. They're way down there on the bottom. Because I was conflating their capacity to feel with cognitive intelligence. And so I had to come to terms with realizing, oh my God, like, this being is capable of great love and not very precise cognition. And so I think that's very important. Like that's the thing that I try, and that's what I think one of music's power is. It's a doorway to, you know, to entrain. When you listen to music, you entrain, you know, boom, 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 boom. We're all grooving to the same beat, right? We're wired for that. We're meant to be a tribe. And that's why we're meant to dance together, because we're supposed to be together, because if we're not, we're going to die this winter when there was not a lot of food, you know?
Right.
And so teaching people how to access their own felt sense, and then allowing them to explore that felt sense in somebody whose cognition might be gone is a fascinating journey and something that isn't taught. And I've created all these programs with kids, where kids come and they're the ones that bring the music to the elders, right? At first I'm like, oh yeah, kids are cool, let's bring some young puppy energy and the old people will like it. And that's true. But after a while, I began to see that first of all, the kids, as you know, Fran will tell you, are effortless in this. Whereas the guy says, oh, you know, my mom's gone, you know, these kids are like, hi, let me meet you where you are. Oh, wow, really? And like, I've seen young people mine the beings of these people with dementia. I've seen young people learn from people with dementia, not illustratively, but like, these people with dementia have lived lives that these young kids haven't. They've climbed trees, they've ridden horses, they've been in fist fights, they've gotten dirty, they've fallen down hills, you know, they've cut themselves and had blood come out of them, you know, like, you know, anyway. There are many layers of learning, and these people can help us as well as we help them.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think it's in the middle of our lifespan that we add all this baggage around what is value, what is makes somebody worthwhile. And if we don't tell children this older person is not worthwhile anymore, that's not what they bring to it. They bring, how cool is it? They were a World War II veteran and they flew a plane. That might have been 40 years ago, but they don't have that baggage. I think that that's very beautiful, that working with older adults, a beauty is that you become yourself once again, you know, that if you have dementia, maybe your ability to communicate that is different, but you know, you understand again what is important. You know, it's that circle that comes around. So I love that.
Gretchen, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, Gretchen. You know, one of the greatest crimes that everyone in this audience is suffering from is not knowing who they are. You know, like we are allowed to present this false self so much that we believe it. But the truth is that until you can really feel yourself, you know, that's why Alive Inside went so crazy. That's why so many people, they didn't understand why they loved the film. It went insane. Well, why did it go insane? Because it says, hey, you are more alive than you think you are, you know? And when you feel someone come alive, you're like, oh, I bet I could do that. And you can. It's not hard to turn off your stupid mind, you know? Your mind is really not that incredible. You can do incredible cognitive things. But if you take your identity and your personality at face value, you're missing half of life. And that's what dogs are for. That's what music is for. That's what beautiful people are for. Like, they make you remember the very humble. That's like you said about that nurse. She says, oh, I did something with this one patient and that made my whole week worthwhile. Exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
You felt human, you felt alive, you felt their humanity, you felt their aliveness. You know, you were together, alive inside for one moment.
Yep.
And that was everything.
Yep.
And you were right, the middle of our lives, we forget that. So I encourage everybody in the audience to find out who the heck you are deep inside. That isn't your mind and isn't your thoughts. It's your heart and your feeling of being. Like, it is a miracle that we get to exist. Like, every single one of us are millionaires, multimillionaires, because we are alive. We possess the single greatest treasure on this planet. Absolutely. And yet we pretend like we're unhappy or, you know, depressed or whatever. Like, no, you're alive, you know, use it. You only get a little of it. It's almost over.
Right. Yep, that is awesome. That is so the feeling of Alive Inside. I'm going to let our scientists take us out. We have one more question that I'm going to ask Hampton. Hampton, what do you hope will result from your ongoing Alzheimer's disease research using the All of Us data set? What do you hope in the scientific realm? We see what's possible through Alive Inside in that human connection realm. What are you thinking, hoping might come? And you're early in your career. What do you think will come for you?
Yeah, so I am early in my career. I think there are so many different ways that research of different areas can really come together. And I consider, you know, the work that's done with patient care in terms of music therapy and all those types of things, those are so important in terms of giving people quality of life. And I think that as well as the scientific research have a place to come together in terms of how we can make not only a solution, but just have better preventative care and better support for people who are dealing with diagnoses like this. For me, in my personal research, I'm hoping that because All of Us is so diverse and is such a great resource, that I will be able to use it to nominate new population-specific risk factors for Alzheimer's and dementia. And with those types of discoveries, we can then, you know, have a whole world of follow-up where we can eventually, and this is the dream, we can target those differences and try to figure out how they're affecting disease biologically and why these things differ across populations. And the more that we learn about these differences and how they're working and how they're contributing to pathology and your presentation of disease and your trajectory of disease progression, The more knowledge we have about those things, eventually you can imagine we can take that knowledge and build it into things that target drug design better. So we can target drugs that are made for a specific group of people with a specific genotype. And then we can target those groups of people in a clinical trial design that's designed specifically for those people. So instead of, throwing a wide net and trying to test a solution on people with very different backgrounds, lifestyles, genetic backgrounds, all these things, and then being shocked when it doesn't work, we can really come in with a good level of base knowledge that lets us know, okay, maybe we need to design this a little bit more tailored to the specific type of person that this is. And then maybe we can try and get closer to that personalized medicine aspect and really make some progress.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That is really great.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
Hampton. I've been doing a lot of research on how people not being alive inside actually creates disease. There's so many it's almost like a cry for help in a way for a lot. That's what my next film's about.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I would love it if you would have some questions in your data set that could actually investigate a person's awareness of their own inner life, because I bet that's a parameter that needs to be, some of the data can be hidden in that actual, because sometimes the body expresses a cry for help, literally. I mean, there's a lot of people who shouldn't have dementia
mm-hmm.
in our test subjects who really
mm-hmm.
shouldn't,
mm-hmm.
But their emotional life, their chemical life, got in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's a really important thing to be studied as well. And I hope you have just think about it. It'll percolate in your head.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. And it might be difficult to, turn that into a very clean sort of, phenotype that we can test. But I think people have tried to sort of get at that kind of thing in terms of people have tested stress levels, sleep levels and things like that. And stress is a huge risk factor, not just for Alzheimer's disease, but for any sort of aging related disease. When you're stressed and you're not having a good time in your life, it actually causes biological changes in your body that can put you at risk for these things that maybe, of course we have to dissect. Of course, lots of people are stressed and they don't develop these things. So there's obviously more going on biologically than just being stressed, but it's a huge risk factor for disease. So it's not just, genetics or things like this. There's so many lifestyle aspects to developing these diseases as well.
And a real beauty of all of us and that large data set is that social scientists will come and take a look at those kind of questions that you're talking about, Michael, because medicine is super important, holds so much promise. And that's what we want. We want people to be able to make these choices about being alive inside without dementia being on top of it for them. But all of us really allows people with all kinds of different ideas about how to make life better, how to advance precision medicine, to come to this data set, which is so diverse that it's just not going to have people looking like us, but people looking all different ways with all different backgrounds. So it offers so much hope, I think. So I want to thank you all so much, Fran and Michael and Hampton. This was such a terrific discussion and I learned so much, and I want to watch your next film, Michael. So you teased it for us, so now we're excited about that. But yeah, what a great discussion. I think that this is all the time that we have today. I'm going to pass it back to Ingrid at the NNLM so she could close out for us. But thank you all to all of our panelists so much, and to our audience for all their great questions as well.
Thank you so much, Gretchen, Michael, Fran, and Hampton, for your insight and this fascinating discussion. To our audience members, we want to thank you for joining our virtual film screening of Alive Inside and for joining us today in today's discussion. We hope this will help jumpstart your interest in learning more about how you can help change the future of health by participating in research programs like All of Us. This program was made possible in partnership with the National Library of Medicine, NNLM, and the network of the National Library of Medicine, NNLM, and 50Forward. We want to thank the library partners and community organizations from around the United States for promoting this event to their community members. Before you go, a quick reminder about our survey. We welcome your feedback on this program through our online survey. A link is available in the chat. Your responses will help us continually improve our programming. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day.